Welcome to Season 3 and Episode 5 of the Smarketing Talk podcast, produced by Landscape Leadership. I'm your host, Chad Diller. I'm the Director of Client Success here at Landscape Leadership, and I'm joined by our CEO and founder, Chris Heiler.
Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
If you own or work for a company in the lawn and landscape industry, you are in the right place. This is where we share our candid thoughts on sales and marketing as it relates to companies just like yours. So thank you for joining us. Hey, Chris, this morning, as my coffee's brewing, one of the rituals I have each morning is, I lay on the couch. I have the world's slowest coffee pot, I swear. But I lay on the couch, and one of the things I do is I scroll through Facebook. And one of the things I like about Facebook, there's a lot of things I don't, are the memories, because it'll serve up the memories for you, like what happened in this day, last year, 5 years, whatever. And I just happened to have a picture pop up. Actually, the picture was pre-Facebook. It was 1994, my senior year in high school. And this is the picture that popped up. And for those of you that are listening, I'll have this in the show notes on our website. So check that out, Chris. What's going on in there?
Yeah, let me describe this for listeners, and you definitely need to look at this. So Chad was evidently a car guy.
Oh, yeah.
And very fashionable for 1994.
You can definitely tell. The car is from the 60s, but the clothes are definitely from the mid-90s.
Yes. You can talk about the car. I'll talk about the clothes. So the clothes, he's got some, it looks like you've got the faded, kind of the standard baggy faded jeans.
Stonewashed.
Stonewashed. Yes, that's the proper term. I can't really tell if they're rolled. They don't seem to be rolled.
No, that
was out of fashion in 94. I was probably still doing it.
Yeah, Michigan, you're a little behind, so maybe you were still tight rolling the pants, but none of that going on.
Yeah. And then the shirt, I love this shirt because it's this striped shirt, and then it has these extra baggy long sleeves. So it's a short sleeve shirt, but the sleeves extend way past the elbows. And it looks like you have these two like plastic grocery bags or something hanging from your shoulders. I don't know how else to describe it.
Someone could fly away with sleeves like those.
Yeah. Yeah. And with your hair. You could definitely catch flight.
Yeah, definitely. I had the butt cut, parted in the middle, and that's a little 90210-ish there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Definitely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So some of the things in this picture are classic, like the 1965 Mustang Fastback. Never goes out of style, always great. And some of the other things in this picture, maybe not so much. It made me start thinking just about this time frame, like when this picture popped up. I think it was either 2011 or 2012 when I posted it. And it made me start thinking back to this time frame. And I remember that actually this is about the time you and I became professionally acquainted. I remember used to do webinars for Planet, NALP, which used to be called Planet, and used to do them on the topic of marketing. I was a new marketing director at a company that I worked at. This was like 4 or 5 years before I came to work here for you, and used to do topics about SEO and websites and social media.
Yep.
Yeah, those are good times. I learned a lot. Yeah. And social media, that was like the buzz right then,
2012. I think that's about right. It's when that was really taking off.
Yeah, it was. And I was super interested in it because, hey, it was my job to play on Facebook all day. That's great. That's a good gig right there. And so I thought it'd be fun. So the other week I took some time. Actually, we were looking through some old articles anyway, and I found a few. And so as we were thinking about doing this podcast, I found a couple from the archives that you wrote on social media.
These are all 2012, right? Or before 2000?
There's 2011 and 2012. I found 4 or 5 articles I was looking at that you wrote. I thought what would be fun is to go through these articles and talk about kind of like, as we mentioned in my picture, which things are still classics and which things are, just should be just buried and left alone. Maybe you're
Yeah.
like, maybe we should unpublish some of these articles, but I thought it'd be fun to go through a couple of
Yep.
these
Let's do it.
and talk about them.
Hmm.
All right, you ready for this? All right. So the first one here, and we'll have links to these articles in the show notes if you want to go back and read them too. The first one was 8 reasons you should use
Yeah.
Tumblr. That was in June of 2012. You published this one.
Barely remember even writing that. Uh, and if obviously I wrote it, and I would have written it for landscaping companies. So really 8 reasons why a landscaping company should use Tumblr. And now, and as I think about that, like I couldn't give right now in 2020, I could not give anyone a reason to use Tumblr. I don't remember what my reasons were in 2012.
It was a
Did you?
pretty short. It was a pretty short article, about why you should use Tumblr. Can you explain to people that are listening that may
Yeah.
not know what Tumblr is
So,
now anymore?
so at the time, I think there was a couple of these networks that were emerging, and I think they were referred to as microblogging platforms. So Tumblr was one. There was a couple of others, like Posterous was one that I was on that kind of died. And these were positioned against a platform like WordPress or Blogger, which were seen to be like longer form written content. So it was just really easy to post things on Tumblr. You didn't need to write long articles. You could post videos. You could post pictures really easily, which I think is the problem that Tumblr ran into. You'll talk about that.
Yes, they did run into. Yeah, they ran into some problems. Yeah,
But it was just for 8 years ago, it was a really easy way to quickly share small pieces of content rather than posting something longer on a site like WordPress. That's what I remember. But now there's just so many other platforms you can use. Like Tumblr is just not feasible now.
the problem with Tumblr is, like many things, you have a few bad eggs that just ruin it for everybody. And if you're going to run one of these platforms, you have to moderate it very, very, very well. I actually pulled this quote. It says, Tumblr's relaxed content moderation also allowed blogs with more troubling content, particularly child pornography and Nazi agitation. The issue has been called out by Tumblr's own users for years with no action taken. In November of 2018, Apple actually removed Tumblr from its App Store
Wow.
due to these concerns. So shame on you, Tumblr. You had a good thing going for you, and you just let it run amok. So
Yeah,
Tumblr,
I'd like to know the whole story on that. I've never really heard the full story, but recommendation in 2020, landscape companies do not use Tumblr. There you go.
No, I don't even know if you can find it anymore, to tell you the truth, but
Yeah, no
don't
kidding.
look for it. Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about this next one. So this next article we're going to talk about most is the 11 most important social media networks for green industry professionals. You wrote this in May of 2012.
So I wrote this article based on an infographic that I created back in, that had to be 2011, maybe. It was before this article. So I created this infographic that you could download from the website, because infographics were also a thing back then, which we should mention because I don't see much of those anymore. So I created the infographic, let people download that, and then this was like a follow-up article to that piece. So a little background for you.
Yeah. Well, let's go back and forth.
Okay.
Let's kind of ping pong, one after another. The first one is Facebook, and I want to skip this one for now. And I'm going to come back to it when we're done here, because you actually wrote a whole article about Facebook. So we'll take that first one and we'll put it at the end. So why don't you start with number 2 on this list?
And let me say too, when I created this, I don't think I put these in any particular order of importance. These were just what I felt were the 11 most important networks to be on. So these aren't necessarily in order. So the second one we had was Google Plus, which some people might be saying, huh? I don't even know what that is. Uh, so Google Plus went away within the last year, maybe longer ago.
No, it's a few years now.
Oh, okay.
Time travels fast
Yes, it
when
does.
it goes to social media platforms.
Yeah. So I don't know what else to say about Google Plus. I mean, it was another attempt by Google to create this competitor to Facebook. And it was really popular in the beginning, like a lot of influencers and a lot of influencers took to it early on because it did have some nice features, but then there just wasn't mass adoption. So people weren't there. They just didn't have their audiences there. So I think all those influencers left and just went back to Facebook and other places, and it just died. So I don't know what do you have to say about it?
Not much. I mean, I used it for a little bit, but yeah, the idea was, oh, if Google owns something, you should be using it because it's going to help search optimization. And it went away, and now you can see it's kind of been redesigned in the Google My Business. Now they
Mm-hmm.
have Google Posts, which you can post things there. So who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows what's going on with them? All right, well, let's talk about number three. Number three is my favorite today. It's my favorite. It's LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is awesome for B2B. So, we like to talk to people that are associated with businesses. You said in this article, personally, I found LinkedIn to be a great tool for reaching out and getting introduced to decision makers and influencers in our industry. I could not agree with that more. That is my primary way of getting connected, not just with owners of lawn care and landscape companies, but people that serve on advisory boards or vendors, product suppliers, all that sort of thing. That is a great place to have a very well-rounded
Yeah.
connection to the industry you're in.
I
So
would
I
say
definitely agree with that one.
be, because the same is true today compared to 8 years ago when I wrote this. That just shows you how strong this platform was then and is now. Like how they positioned this platform. Like they really haven't changed a whole lot. They've added things, but really at its core, it's still like this is still the main way a lot of people use it. Just meeting and getting introduced to really good people that can help you out.
I agree.
Number 4, we've got Twitter. Man, I haven't been on Twitter in personally, I'm saying probably 4 or 5 years. I think it's such a hot mess nowadays. It's been hijacked by all sorts of media types, and this is kind of what I see, my perspective. Seems like it's very political. It's not something I want to be involved in. It, from a business standpoint, it really wasn't doing much for us, for our business. I'm not sure like why a landscaping company or lawn care company would be on Twitter nowadays. I don't see the relevance. Uh, you can convince me otherwise if you want. You want to try?
No, I'm not going to convince you otherwise. No, one of the quotes you said in the article was Twitter is like a BNI referral group or a happy hour at your local bar. And that is really true. The problem is that a bunch of riffraff came into the bar, and now it's a place nobody wants to hang out
Right.
unless they're
It's
ready to
like
pick a
I think
fight.
the point I was trying to make is like it was a good way. It was like informal networking with some of your peers. So
Yeah.
it's like you said, yeah, going into a networking meeting, but now that networking meeting just dissolves into a bunch of political talk and all this other crap that has nothing to do with business.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
It's a hot mess. Yeah. Not a great place. Okay, number 5, WordPress. So I'm assuming you meant in the fact that this WordPress used to be a blogging platform, meaning that people used to have a blog on a place off of their company website at another place, and the way that blogs primarily used to function is they were
Right.
interactive. Like there were comment sections where people could go back and forth. So that's why you're calling WordPress a social platform at this point in time. Now it has evolved. I mean, it has that functionality, but it has evolved more into a website.
Right. Content management system. Yeah, I think in this context, I could have used Blogger also, but WordPress at the time, I think WordPress was kind of taking over for Blogger. That's probably why I use WordPress here instead of Blogger. But yeah, how you explained it is how I was thinking about it.
Yeah, and that has changed. That product has changed
Yeah.
from a platform to a product. And as far as comments go, well, we know that if you open up comments, which we don't really recommend for people to do on their lawn care landscaping blog, then again you have to moderate it. And so that is kind of has become the means that some people create social communities on their websites if they want to moderate that, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend that for
Right.
lawn care and landscape companies. So
Yeah. Number 6 is Tumblr, which we already talked about. Stay away.
oh yeah, okay. Yeah. All right, well then number 7's mine, Pinterest. Okay. Pinterest. Wow, Pinterest has really shifted. So I think in the beginning, it maybe could have been a good place. I think most people know that Pinterest is predominantly, their users are predominantly women. And we know that women in households have, a lot of the decision making power as far as, how to improve the home and to maybe even take care of items around the home, depending upon the household whose responsibility it is to keep that place looking great. But Pinterest has really shifted. So I think it used to be when it first came out, more like the hows, which exists now, where like construction and those types of
Exactly.
home improvement things. But now it's really shifted more to like home decor. You'll find way more home decor there, and some of that contractor stuff has kind of moved over to house. But Pinterest talks about women's fashion and quotes and health and fitness and humor and travel and that sort of thing. So it's really probably not a place where I think lawn care and landscaping companies should be now. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Uh, when it first came out, there was definitely some potential there, but yeah, I don't know why a company would be on Pinterest now. Like House is a much better platform if you're a residential design build company, right? Just put your work on House
I agree.
rather than on Pinterest. My girlfriend uses Pinterest a lot, but she uses it. She searches for recipes on there. Um,
Yeah, there's a lot of food on there.
yeah, and I personally use Pinterest still, but all of my boards are private, and I just use it to collect ideas for my house down there in Guatemala. I'm not on there searching for businesses or anything like that.
Yeah, wow. You're in the 29% of men that are users right now.
Is that what it is? I would say I am not an active
Okay.
user. Okay.
That's all
I
right.
have some boards.
All right. Why don't you take number 8 on the list?
Number 8. Oh, okay, this is a good one. Instagram. If we were going to redo this for 2020 and come up with another list of 11 and rank them by importance, Instagram, I think, would jump up top 3,
Oh
I
yeah.
would say. Uh, so Instagram's interesting, especially how it's evolved after Facebook bought it. I don't remember how long ago that was, but I remember Facebook bought Instagram for $1 billion.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Right? And a lot of people were mocking Facebook and at the time, "Oh, I can't believe you just bought this photo app for $1 billion. They don't make any money, blah, blah, blah." Uh, and now I think more and more people are migrating over to Instagram rather than using Facebook. It's been interesting. I mean, it was a good move by Facebook, obviously, in buying it. From a business perspective, I've said this before. I think it's important that companies, whether you're a residential design build company or a lawn care company, tree care company, if you're consumer facing, I think you should have an account on there so you can be available and accessible. to people because more and more people are direct messaging through Instagram. And I'll give you an example of that in a minute. But so I think you need to be available, but you don't necessarily have to post a lot and try to build up a lot of followers or anything like that. Just make sure your company is available if people are trying to reach you through that. Because I've mentioned this to you in the past, I've seen my girlfriend, how she uses Instagram, and it's really interesting. So if she is going to research or search out a business, she starts on Instagram. She doesn't go to the company's website, which is really, right, that's the traditional way of researching, right? You open up a browser, web browser,
Right.
and then you search for the company. It's not like that. She opens up her phone, goes to the Instagram app, and searches for the company. And if that company is not on there, it like destroys all credibility in her mind. She's like, oh my God, I can't even believe this company's not on Instagram. Right. And then, but a lot of the times the company she's looking for, it's on Instagram. So she doesn't then go to the company's website to reach out to them. She doesn't call them. She'll DM them through the Instagram app, right? So that's how she starts communicating and reaching out and showing signs of interest, is directly through Instagram. And I don't think she's the only one that does that, right? I think more and more people are doing that. And maybe that's not, she's going to be 30 next week. So maybe that's not every company's ideal clientele right now. But 5 years from now, 10 years from now, it's those, those are the millennials, right? Those are going to be our customers, and they're going to be used to using Instagram. So
You're right.
Got to start to adapt to that.
Right.
What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think there's, with the younger generation, like my kids, I think about their Gen Z, and they're on Snapchat and those sorts of things, but they're also on Instagram. But our generation, Gen X, uh, there's a very wide adoption of Instagram now. It seems like that is primary, at least in my social circles. I feel like a lot of people are gravitating to that and away from Facebook because they're tired of the political banter and
Right.
that sort of thing. And there doesn't seem to be yet as much of that that's coming into Instagram. So it's more just sharing memories, life, things that are going on, and it's kind of what Facebook started out to be. And I think there's probably going to be a shift here in the next couple of years.
I think you're right about like Gen X and some of these older generations adapting Instagram. And I think that's one reason why you see these other social networks or social media like Snapchat, TikTok, those really take off with the younger crowd. I think a lot of these younger kids, like the Gen Z, they don't want to spend as much time on Instagram because their damn parents are on Instagram.
Absolutely.
Right? So
Get me off of there.
right. So they go to
Not
TikTok.
cool now anymore. Thanks for ruining it, guys.
Exactly. So, they move to TikTok, they go to Snapchat because their parents haven't figured out those networks
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to the next one list here. Number 9 is YouTube as a social network. So YouTube, that's another one of my favorite platforms I spend a lot of time on. Those of you that follow my stuff on social, like follow our Facebook page or my LinkedIn profile, you'll see that I commonly post YouTube videos that we create with tips for how to market your business. Primarily, the reason that I'm putting the content on YouTube, again, is because Google owns YouTube.
Right.
And then what you can do is you can embed those videos very easily other places, and you get all of your metrics within YouTube. So you can see all the view counts, even if it was embedded onto LinkedIn or Facebook. All those things are right in YouTube. So that's why I've used it. Now, as far as it being a social platform, what I've found is most of the commenting that goes on is not quality commenting and discussion. Now, you do have the option to disable comments, and I don't, just because I haven't seen people abusing it. But I do get an occasional comment that's like, seriously, dude, come on. And you can prevent users from making comments on your channel if they become trolls. But what I've seen in YouTube videos is either people are one extreme. They're either this was great, it was really helpful, or they're trolling you.
Yeah.
And so I would not use this as a means to create a large social following, and just understand what it is and what it's not before you embark on this.
Right. And why don't you tell people what your channel is?
Well, just search my name, Chad Diller, and you'll find my ugly mug and just click on that. And I got a bunch of videos. I think I have 49 videos on there now in the last two years. So, or last year and a half.
Very nice.
Check it out.
Shameless promotion for my son, the Walking Cheerio. Check it out.
Yeah. Charlie's got an interesting YouTube channel. He's learning how to do some, what was it, fake attorney commercials.
That's going to be his niche right now. He said
Okay.
remaking commercials,
Okay.
but putting our own little spin on it. The
There we
Walking
go.
Cheerio. Subscribe.
He's going to have more views than I do, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right. So, Chris, number 10, Flickr.
Okay, number 11. No.
No?
Yeah, I don't have much to say. I used to love Flickr. When I had my design firm, that's the first place I would upload all my photos. I feel like it was like the first social sharing app, right? Where people would put all their photos and you could join groups about different topics. So there was a social element to it. You could comment on the photos. It was great. And then it just, like, Yahoo bought it, I think, right? Yeah, Yahoo bought it quite a while ago. And then it just, like, Yahoo did not put any resources into it, and it just died. And I want to say it's been sold a couple of times, but it's still around. If you're a landscaping company, there's other platforms to use other than Flickr. It's not relevant anymore to the companies in the green industry, in my opinion.
I agree. There's other platforms that do the same thing, or pieces of it are more visually facing, like Instagram.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Last one on the list is number 11 is Foursquare. So Foursquare used to be this thing where you could check in when you got somewhere.
Yep.
And I remember if you checked in more than anyone else, you became the mayor of that location. And it used to be a big thing. I don't even know. Like I remember checking in, but I don't really remember like the back and forth at all.
There was commenting, so you could check in somewhere, and then one of your followers could comment.
Yeah,
I think, but it wasn't. I think the social aspect was kind of creepy. Like people could just see where you were at because you were checking in all the time.
And now that's become pretty commonplace with, Google My Business, Facebook, Instagram, tagging locations now is commonplace. And yeah, I remember when I was on Twitter way back, like 2011, I had some friends, and these are all people in our local community, and they used to compete to see who could become the mayor or overthrow the other person because they're checking into this coffee shop more often than the other one.
Yeah.
I think Foursquare still exists, but I don't really know how much.
It's like a data aggregating service or something. They did a total pivot.
Yeah, it's changed. Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk just real briefly any other platforms. So, like, I would say this: the platforms that I would recommend for if you're a commercial company, definitely LinkedIn. If you're targeting, business managers, if you're mostly residential, Facebook and Instagram. That's where I'd go. Do them really well, and don't worry about being on every single one. But we have some other platforms that are out there too, right?
Yeah, there's a few we mentioned. Houzz. I think if I were to redo this list, I think we could put Houzz on there. It's somewhat social. So residential design build, I would definitely be on Houzz. Snapchat and TikTok we mentioned. I would stay away from those personally as a company. Don't see much utility there with those two networks.
Yeah, well, TikTok is allegedly going away, so
yeah,
hopefully you haven't invested too much time there. Snapchat again, maybe recruiting if you're trying to get people out of high school. Um, maybe there's something you could do there, but as far as reaching homeowners that want to drop 150 grand in their backyard, I'm not sure if you're going to grab them on
Yeah.
Snapchat. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, and companies only have so much time and resources to put into this.
you're
So
right.
focus on one or two platforms.
I agree. I agree. All right. So let's move on to the next article. Actually, we had kind of referenced at the beginning of this list is Facebook.
Yep.
That was the first one on there. And I wanted to bring that back here at the end because we have an article actually there that you wrote back in February of 2012. It's called Why Your Business Should Give a Damn About Facebook in Less Than 30 Seconds. If you want a quick read, it is less than 30 seconds. It's
Is
a
it?
very short blog post by Chris. So I wanted to know if do you still feel like this is relevant?
Uh, do I still feel like businesses should give a damn about Facebook? And again, we're talking about landscaping, green industry businesses. I think so. Uh, to give you guys some perspective, landscape leadership, we don't do as much on there as I used to. Like, I personally, I don't even have a Facebook account anymore. We have the business page, which you guys are the admins for, but really I see it as a way to basically just get messages. Like if somebody wants to reach out to us through Facebook, then we're available there.
Right.
Other than that, like there's no social aspect or anything to it for us now, like there used
But
to be.
we're B2B.
Yeah, and we are right. So, and we are B2B. We're not a B2C. We're not a consumer-facing company. But should your business care about Facebook? Uh, I think you can. I think if your business is on there, you can use it for advertising purposes. It's a pay-to-play platform nowadays, as far as generating business. Uh, so if you want to advertise through there, I think that can be effective for some companies. But as far as using Facebook to organically grow your audience and actually try to generate leads and real opportunities from it, I don't think there's a lot of potential there anymore because the algorithms have changed so much. You just can't cut through all the noise to reach people.
I agree.
And so if you want to build a community on there for your employees and friends and maybe some of your customers can follow your page, that's okay. It's kind of like a staying top of mind. That's all right. You can use Facebook for that. But I mean, if I had a landscaping business today, I don't think I would really put much effort into Facebook. Would you? What if you
Yeah,
were
I mean,
back at that same company that you were at before landscape leadership? How do you
what it
think you
was
would?
now.
Yeah, how do you think you would be
Yeah.
using Facebook today?
Well, I can tell you, I invested a lot of time into social media
Yeah,
from the years 2012 to 2016. I mean, I posted every day to multiple platforms. And this is a trend that I've seen, even see to this day. So we have one client that's probably the most active company I've seen on social media in our industry. 3,000 followers on Facebook, lots of likes and shares and comments. But does
yeah,
that mean leads? So I would say, I would caution our listeners to think about social media in a lot of respects as a community or an extension of your branding efforts, but not to hang the lead generation hat there,
yeah,
because I have statistics. I can tell you right now that client who's super active, we get 8 times more website visits from all the work that we're doing to improve their organic traffic through blogging and SEO, and
hmm
7 times more leads that way than he gets through social. Now,
yeah,
it doesn't mean he still wants the leads. So it's a matter of if you're doing all the other things you're supposed to be doing, this might be a priority that falls down in your list. I think companies still should be on Facebook, and they still should do something, especially if they're facing consumers. But they just have to understand that, like you said, it's pay to play, and you can try out some ads. In my opinion, I don't feel like this is the best place for companies in our industry to place ads, just because if I'm on Facebook, I don't typically have the intent like, hey, you know what? I think we should spend $75,000 the next year on a patio in our backyard.
Right.
I'm ranting about things or looking at pictures or just trying to pass some mindless time.
Right.
There's other advertising vehicles where people's intent is greater, like pay
Right.
per click for certain types of services, because they're actually searching for that.
Right. The typical consumer does not go to Facebook to start a search
No,
for, especially for a home services company. They're going to Google. So if
right,
you're going to pay, you might as well be paying Google and do the pay per click, because that's where,
right.
like you said, people have the intent.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's make a deal. We don't talk about Facebook for another 5 years. 2025.
I'm good with that. Definitely good with that. Yeah. All right. So, all right. We talked about networks. We talked about that. I think what's important now to talk about is another article that you wrote. We'll finish off with this, and we'll talk about this article you wrote in March 2011. So this is actually before you recommended these platforms. This was a really early article,
Yep.
and it was called "The Five Truths of Social Media." So let's see. Is this like Chad's mid '90s outfit, or is this like Chad's classic Mustang? Let's talk about some of the points that you made in this article and go through them. So why don't you take that first point that you made?
Okay, I'm going to do the first one. So the first one, I made the comment that unmarketing rules. And my point was that meaningful content trumps marketing. And I think what I was getting at here is through social media channels, you couldn't be as direct with your advertising. Like, people just didn't want to see that, whether that was Facebook, Twitter, wherever. So you had to add something meaningful to the conversation. And it really was a conversation. So I think this still stands up. How about you?
I agree. Yeah. Number two, your point was there's a time for listening and a time for play. And what you meant by that is successful companies and individuals understand how to listen. So it's not just about talking, but you also have to listen to people and you have to interact. It's there's social platforms, meaning you're supposed to be going back and forth and talking about what's not just important to you.
Yeah, that was in response to what I was seeing at the time, and I'm sure you saw it, where a lot of companies, they would constantly post promotional stuff on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever, every platform. It was always just something promotional, like, oh, we do great paver work. Hire us to build a patio, blah, blah, blah.
Go right
Like,
for it.
why are you sharing that on Twitter?
I agree. I agree. All right. Point number three. Go ahead and take that one.
Okay, number three, humans like humans. And my point was, I want to do business with real people, and so do your customers. So it's about uh, personalization, right? That was the cool thing about social media, is it really personalized everything, right? So it wasn't like you could actually start to interact with companies and the unique people at some of these companies. Uh, and I still think that's the case today. We want that. Like, as humans, we want
Yeah.
to interact with other people and not just brands.
Yeah. I will say this that, I've found, like even in our own marketing efforts, that people will interact with you and me on a personal level on LinkedIn more than they'd ever interact with the Landscape Leadership brand page. And
Oh yeah.
I think there's something to be said about personal brands within a brand. Now, it's an added complexity for your lawn or landscape company to handle in like making sure people, have the same communication standards and don't go crazy. But some creativity and personalization and personality is great because people like following people. And if people can operate within the confines of what's appropriate, I think that's a great way to develop business
Yeah.
and to engage customers. All right. Um, Next point is you made is this is hard work. Building a strong online reputation requires deliberate, intentional action all of the time. And that's still truth. Consistency and originality is what I feel like makes you win on social media. You don't want to just be a copycat because you see someone else posting pictures of their trucks they just got, or you just finished a project, and the language that you use looks so similar to what another company posts. I would encourage everyone to really take a look back and ask yourself, why would my prospect even care that I'm posting this? So you have to be consistent, like keep putting things up there. You can't throw something up one time a week and feel like, or every 2 weeks or once a month and feel like you're going to make a difference. But you also have to be creative. Like you have to find a different tone, a different flow, a different way to say things, and really do it very intentionally. And that's what works.
Yep. It is hard work. And whatever platform you're on, it's tough, whether that's doing videos consistently on YouTube, or it's just sharing updates on Instagram, or it's blogging. It's
Right.
It's hard work. All right, number 5 I'm going to take. Everything will change. So the point was social platforms and tools will change, but these truths will not. And I think we've seen that. Like these truths still apply today, and a lot of the platforms has changed. We've already talked about that. Flickr's gone, Foursquare's gone, but other things have, taken their place.
Classic Mustang, Chris. That's what this article was right there.
Well, I appreciate that.
Great. Yeah, it was great. So that all these truths are still the same. I think some of the usage and habits are maybe pivoting and changing a little bit about how people use social platforms, but these truths about what people really care about and how you should communicate and how you should market services, still fundamentally all the same and still true.
Absolutely.
Well, I hope that you enjoyed this trip down content memory lane with us on the Landscape Leadership blog. I would encourage you, if you haven't subscribed to our blog, please go to landscapeleadership.com and check out some of those articles. You can check out some in the archives from 5, 6, 7 years ago. You can also feel free to connect with us on social media. Chris and I are both active on LinkedIn. Just search for our name. I mentioned my YouTube channel as well. You can connect with us with our Facebook page. If you have any questions, just message us right through those platforms. We'd be happy to interact with you. Stay tuned. We are going to do podcasts about twice a month on topics like these that are about sales and marketing within the green industry. Thanks so much. If you enjoyed this episode, please forward it to one of your green industry colleagues or peers. Have a really great day.